Hey everyone, and a huge warm welcome to the very first episode of the Watch Brothers podcast. I'm Neil, and together with my brother Mark, we're super excited to kick things off. In this series, we're diving into the awesome world of watches and hanging out with the people who are making things happen. We're chatting watches with collectors, brands, and the movers and shakers. Today, we're excited to welcome none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Andrew McUtcheon. The dashing heartthrob and founder of Time & Tide, a man living his best life, yet still humble enough to spare a moment for us mere mortals. With a decade of influence under his belt, Andrew's now ready to take on his next big adventure. So buckle up and get ready to be time and tided. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you for joining me in an absolute bomb site. Everything you mentioned, every few minutes will be punctuated by a bit of battening being angle grinded. Yeah, it's all happening.
Men at work here, transforming this amazing space.
We are in the soon to be launched London Watch Discovery Studio, and I am blushing because you said so many nice things, man. Thank you.
Well deserved. So let's kick things off with an all-important wrist check. What are you rocking today?
Well, I am giving the Toledano & Chan B1 its first ever outing, and I'm so eager to get it out that I've taken it out unsized. And it is a little too big for me, but it looks kind of at home. The brutalist style looks...
Yeah, I love the brutalist style. Yeah.
It works in this, building construction space. It
Absolutely,
works.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed today about it is just this horizontal satin brushing of the links. It's just every time I look at it, there's something different, and it just
keeps on giving.
It keeps on giving. Always totally thoughtful and minute details from particularly Alfred Chan, the designer. He's just put an enormous amount of effort. It's a beautiful, beautiful watch, and it just excites me on a level that very few watches do. And whether that, time will tell whether it stays on the wrist and beats all the others in the watch box out on a daily basis. But this is where I'm at right now. That's a lapis dial. This is what's called, what Phil calls a galaxy dial, because this does not meet the Swiss beauty standard, the lapis.
Okay.
So it has a lot of grey fleck through it, but for me, the grey really
that adds to it, I think.
Pings off the steel. So it's just, looking at the sun just came out as we spoke about it. I'm just mesmerised. I'm completely fucking in love.
It's a good piece.
Yeah. So, and I think this is maybe your 10th watch, It's not your first, it's not your 5th. It's you need to be as jaded and cynical and
it's a unique style as well. So you kind of, I love the brutalist design of that kind of angular sections all around it.
And looking at every single link, it's just completely machined differently.
Yeah,
like there's
and
almost
it catches the light. So many facets on it.
Yeah, and the way this sort of flange on one side of the link is wider at the top, and then it sort
every
of
link's
narrows.
a different size, isn't it? Yeah.
It's wild that a watch like this could be manufactured for $4,000. It just speaks to exactly why this category is exploding, because you can do things with such care and such a sort of a bespoke intention that completely out of the question 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's the very best. To me, this personifies what excites me about, why I'm building a temple to brands like this here. I'm all in. Every chip I've made on Time & Tide is going in. All bet on brands like this, and that's what this space will be a temple to.
And that's what's going to attract people, seeing things very different as well.
Well, truly, this is
price points that are achievable.
It's totally, like as I said, this is $4,000. It's already trading at a minimum of 6.5.
Yeah. With
most of them being advertised at 8. So it was underpriced.
Was it a limited edition?
It was 135 or something. So it's a small run, but it's more that there's value. It's great to see that this category is like, obviously our pizza watch and some of the things we've done with Studio Underdog and others have attracted higher prices because there's more of a demand than there is supply. But I feel that same scarcity drug you get from buying a Rolex at retail, I'm hoping that you can get that kick from here too, with what we're stocking.
Yeah.
Because if we had these at retail, there should be a stampede.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
we'll see what we can do. We're going to do an event with Toledano and Chan in the first few months. Can't say anything about it, but that's exactly the kind of watch and the kind of brand that has a home here in London.
Absolutely, yeah. And you're giving them that wider platform to get to a much bigger audience.
Absolutely. I'm giving them a public interface. Like, the thing is, I hadn't bought this watch till I met Phil. I'd seen it, I promoted it, I'd written a column about it in Watch Pro, calling him a Tomb Raider. Because from the front, it looks like a King Midas.
Yeah, definitely.
As soon as you get it on the wrist, you realise this thing's the craziest volumes and physical dimensions I've ever seen in a watch. It
sits really well on the wrist as well.
But does it feel like a King Midas now?
Not at all.
Not at all.
No.
Because of on one side, it's 10.4 mil. On the other, it's 9. So it's 1.5 mil.
So it's tapering.
Higher.
Yeah.
So the case itself has this crazy taper. So it really is. It's exciting to see something like that in the metal.
Yeah.
And then go, you know what, I do want to buy it. And that just proves my point that if we can have a temple to all of these up and coming brands where you really get to hold them and experience them, I just think that there's going to be, no matter how much you know about a brand from what you've seen online.
It's trying them on, isn't it? Once you get that, you can see a photo, but I think the minute you
feel it. I'm going to put it on your wrist live. This is a podcast, obviously not great podcast viewing, but just imagine Neil now. He's putting this on his wrist for the first time, feeling the dimensions. He's got a navy blue jumper on, and that's working really well. He's got a nice big tat on his wrist. He doesn't need to have that resized. That's perfectly sized for him.
I'm out of here with that.
Yeah,
that's
you
stunning.
are gone. That is precisely what you do.
Well, you've got another fan straight away. I'd definitely get something like that.
Yeah, you probably might not have considered it off
not
the
at all.
renders, but
I think sometimes it's when you try a watch on, you kind of
that
fall
looks
for
amazing.
it.
I would feel completely differently about you if you wore that. And it's that thing, that's that point of watches can really, I feel that even though I have high-end pieces, I just don't reach for them when I can give someone a shot of excitement through a B1.
Yeah. And I think it's the emotions that watches evoke with people is it's quite special.
Yeah.
So I'm wearing a Straum today. I've got the Jan Mayen in the Arctic blue.
Mm-hmm.
Got that in for a review, funny enough, but the dial on that is just a killer.
Wow. It's like looking really into the depths of like a free dive or something.
Exactly.
It's like looking back at the surface from underneath.
That's exactly right.
It's really cool. And how do they achieve that effect on the dial?
I've yet to find out. It's some kind of enamel, but it's really a stunning piece. They do it in a green, a blue, a white. They've got all the kind of, most of this stuff's built around, the designs are built around the Norwegian kind of, as an island, I forget the name of it now, but they went out on I think it was a 2-week tour of Norway and used the inspiration from the surrounding areas to kind of inspire the dials of the watches.
It's beautiful. It reminds me a little bit of an Alpine Eagle with that sort of
similar
absolutely. Depth of the dial and the richness of the blue, but also many Grand Seikos that have that.
And a fraction of the cost, they're like 1,600, something like that.
I know. It's just, this is what excites me.
Yeah.
Open case back. What is the movement?
Not had a proper look at that yet.
Okay.
But for the money, it's really, really well finished off as well.
Yeah. Good stuff.
So, Time and Tide is obviously celebrating its 10th anniversary. Huge congratulations.
Thank you.
That's quite an achievement. Looking back, did you ever doubt that you'd ever make it this far? And how have you seen the watch industry change gears over time?
I've had so many years of resistance to the fact that it was still ruling my life.
Yeah.
When you start a business, you don't realise that you basically have another child, and the child needs a lot of attention, it needs nourishment, it needs tough love. It's more than a kid because often there's multiple people connected to that business. So there's all those those souls and those hopes and dreams to care for as well. So I didn't realise how big a commitment it was, and I didn't realise, like people always say to you, success kills business faster than failure, and I never really understood that. But I understand that because we were successful early. And then I think things got tough. Things just hit that spot where the early success was, we re-resourced and had more people. And there were many moments where I felt, but my biggest issue was the tyranny of distance.
Yeah.
I had big ideas and big ambitions to be an alternative media site to, say, Hodinkee, because I wanted to be less based on. I wanted to be more for the newcomer. I wanted to be more accessible, and I wanted to write generally story-based and anecdote-based watch reviews as opposed to technically based. And
that comes across. As a fan and a reader, that definitely comes across.
Yeah,
when you're looking at
we're doing that right then, because that was always the intention. So
Yeah.
I believe that there could be a very alternative. There could be a space for us, a niche that could cater to people who wouldn't define themselves or identify as watch people necessarily, as well as ones that did and found a bit of a kinship with us. So I had big dreams, but I was in one of the world's smallest regions. 1% of the Swiss export market is Australian. So the tension and the pain came when I was strategizing how to make the jump from the world's most remote capital city to Geneva is Melbourne. Wow. And that's where I was launching my assault from. So there were many years where I had the difficulty of running a business, and I'm not really a typical CEO or founder. I'm not an entrepreneur I'm an artist, actually.
Yeah.
And meeting Phil Toledano was a great experience because he also is someone who's not an entrepreneur. He's someone that's driven by ideas and by creativity and by passion and quirkiness. And meeting someone like him, I'm like, we get each other.
Sure.
Because I'm the same, even though I'm now a CEO and founder and running a big team, 30 people in the team. I'm still very much an artistically driven person. So I wasn't an easy fit to run a business. I wasn't always doing it perfectly. And I always had this frustration of how do I get from here to here.
Yeah, but you have to evolve, don't you, to get to those points?
You have to find your snakes and ladders, like you have to find your ladders. They're the good ones, right? Snakes are bad?
That's true, yeah.
Ladders are right. There are ladders that'll appear, and sometimes you just take the shot thinking this could be something that expedites us. And what happened was in the pandemic, the world shrank, and everyone could suddenly access each other on Zoom. I got to meet all the CEOs. I got our
which you would never probably had
that
opportunity.
Ever have had that chance. So again, I'm not going to say the pandemic was terrible and destructive and very sad for many people, but it did actually force me into a corner where I had to. But it forced the industry into a corner where they had to use a platform like Time and Tide to do online sales, for CEOs to do interviews more directly instead of having all these middlemen and at events.
Everyone seems so much more accessible now.
So much more accessible. So that's continued. But I got to meet Julian Toinard and Romain from Zenith, and also Doxa. These guys represent Doxa. There's Marine Lemonnier in the space right now, we got to meet these important people and these important brands, and then that led to us doing our first big limited edition with Zenith, which was a real fun one, the Night Surfer. And suddenly our prospects started to change, and then I got this amazing trip, this jailbreak, where I got an exemption from my government to leave Australia in the middle of the pandemic.
Wow.
So I rolled up at all the manufacturers, and they had
nothing
to
do.
Nothing to do. There was like a boardroom table set for one, me and the CEO, and I went around systematically to all the brands in this crazy exemption that I got, and I was able to form some strong connections, and
which you would have never been able to do.
Never been able to do, and then I'm trying to think, and then George and I met in the pandemic. George and I finally connected, and he'd been George fucking Bamford, that's what I used to call him, GFB, and then we met and had there's footage of us having one of our first conversations, and it's so much. Just so much chemistry between us, so much. You could just tell this was explosive. This new friendship, and then that led to a limited edition with George, and then that led to George saying we should do that again. Come on GB Talks. Then we go on GB Talks. We should do a podcast.
Snowballs from there.
And then I'm like, yeah. I'm just a bit busy, and then I meet him and Adrian together. We come from different corridors and meet in the same place. Bang. And then that existed, and it's a story told in many kind of fortuitous ladders.
Absolutely.
But I've climbed up many ladders that have led nowhere.
The last time we chatted was at the About Effing Time Christmas meetup last December, where you teased a London store. Now, less than a year later, the dream's almost a reality. And I remember saying, build it and they will come. Well, you're building it and they're on their way. What does it mean to you to have a Time and Tide showroom here in London? And how does it feel to create a new kind of hotspot for collectors and enthusiasts?
It means everything to me, because it's just a concept until it's proven,
Sure.
and it's just a concept until it's tried. And my concept is that what is missing is this: whenever you have a brilliant event, whenever there's a British Watchmakers Day,
It's hard to do.
the energy that's created in a physical space
Yeah.
is unparalleled, and you can't create that any other way. So I just want to have an always-on excitement space. I want this to be a fucking excitement machine. I want you to come here and be like, oh man, I saw so many watches that I've seen that are internet
It's a new
famous,
destination for people in London to say, I need to come to Time and
just come
Tide.
and if you got an hour between
Yeah,
meetings,
and there's no hassle, there's no
come.
pressure.
The pressure on me is just I have to create excitement every day. I have to have an Atelier Wen masterclass with hand engraving. I have to have the founder or the current family member that owns Raymond Vale here with a new collection to explain this jump that they've made into suddenly being back in relevance. I have to have Ed Sheeran here with an acoustic guitar one afternoon playing as we talk to Roger Smith. Like I have to, all these things I have to bring it, and I will.
I wish you luck with that. Okay, so give us a sneak peek. What's the vibe going to be like when they walk into the store? What do you hope they're going to feel, and more importantly, what are they going to take away with them when they leave?
When you come in, to me, it's a very high benchmark and it's a very aspirational target. But I want people to feel like, oh, I want to live here. I could live here. Because when you move, you walk into a great store, like an Aesop, or I'm trying to think of any stores that are certain interiors places, you just think, oh, I could live here.
Yeah.
So that's important. It has to feel really welcoming and really, it has to feel like a livable space as opposed to a transactional space, a retail space. There's a lot of soft furnishings around. There's seating all around the edge of the whole space.
Yeah.
So it's really for people to, there's a lot of rules broken. In retail, you're not meant to make people comfortable.
Yeah.
There's meant to be nowhere they can lodge because you want them in and out.
Yeah, of course.
This breaks all
But
the
this
rules.
is an experience you're trying to give them.
It's an experience, and it is a little bit of a clubhouse. I
Yeah.
wanted to feel a little bit like when someone comes up to you and says, oh, nice Straum.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, what?
Yeah.
How do you know this brand? And all our people will know Straum.
Yeah.
That's a part of the requirement, is that if you apply for a job here, you have to pass pretty rigorous geek tests.
Yeah.
So definitely one, I like the idea of a livable space as opposed to a transactional space, and I like the idea of immediately being enabled and feeling like the people here, that you're one of them, Or if you're someone off the street that's just up here to change a moon swatch strap, I want you to walk in and go, what is happening?
What is this? Yeah. This is not what I'm used to.
Charlie, what Willy Wonka for watches sort of spot is this? Because again, but equally, for that person off the street, I expect they're going to look around and see a couple of brands they recognise.
Yeah.
That'll make them feel that this isn't just a niche thing. Because I'd like to think that our brand selection is not all niche, lower priced indies. There's a few real surprises in there from big box brands.
Good.
And our first event to launch this space is the limited edition we're doing with an LVMH brand.
Yeah.
So this whole space will just be that brand. Biggest edition we've ever done.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue to. I'm just pushing everyone to keep surprising people.
Yeah.
So I think the surprise, like the discovery factor, is super real. Like it's in the name, Watch Discovery Studio. It's a stupid name. It should be called a shop. And people are just like,
but it's not. It's more than. It's more than that, though,
but
isn't it?
I really want that to be like the discovery piece. You're a big watch guy.
Yeah.
You live and breathe it. You're, unreasonably interested in watches. I still want you to go. I discovered a watch.
Yeah. Well, I've already done that.
Exactly. And this is wearing the Tide. I wore that today on purpose because that's indicative of the sort of watches that you've seen on the internet.
Yeah.
You've definitely seen it, but it's very different to put it on.
And you need to get it up on your wrist.
That's
Absolutely.
it. So they're the things and then to walk away with, I'd like them to walk away with a watch.
Yeah.
100%. But if not that, maybe an About Effing Time hoodie, maybe I'm trying to think maybe one of our studio editions that are only available here.
Yeah.
We're doing some interesting accessories and merch and lower price things and magazines. You know, we've got pretty much, you know, there's
all the bases covered.
All the bases covered of
Yeah.
like just giving someone. I can say this. When is this launching?
Not for a week or two.
A week or two. I can say this. Adrian will forgive me. We're going to do a 3-piece Bark and Jack exclusive strap combination that you buy on one card. So 3 NATOs on one card.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And they're the colours. I can't say anything else. No, I've said enough.
That's enough.
But they relate to the location.
Okay.
And it's so awesome. Super touristy for London.
Yeah.
In a very clever way, in a very Adrian way. Like he's never very overt. He's clever, and it's brilliant. This concept of the Bark and Jack collectible and the Bark and Jack,
especially
souvenir.
where we are.
Where we are.
Yeah.
Well, we're in London and we're in the UK, so that's all I'll say. But that would be an example
between
of.
the lines,
I want people to walk out with a piece of us.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you've made a huge move from Australia to make this happen. How's the support from your family played a role? And are there any plans? It's probably a bit forward this, but to open more stores going forward.
Look, they haven't played a role. They are the player.
Yeah.
Like I am the person that I'm like in Shark Tank.
Yeah.
I'm the applicant, and my family and my wife in particular, they're the ones that sit there like Kevin O'Leary, just pushing me on my idea.
Yeah.
So, team, all girls, darlings, I want to move the family to London.
Yeah.
And it's not the 50s anymore. You don't get to just say, this is happening,
Not at all.
get in the car, get on the plane, we're all off.
Yeah.
I had to win them over. I had to get a yes from everyone, various bribes and so on. So they haven't played a role. They are the vehicle that I jumped in and we all took off together. And it's taken nearly 2 years for my little girls to feel like London is home. It took about 1.5 years longer than I expected. I feel that I can usually, through blunt force, sort of the power of will, make people convince them to come with me.
Yeah.
And like the watch brands are much easier than my family.
Yeah. Well.
So it's taken a long time, but I think we're there. They've got great friends here. They're settled. As for what's beyond London, I mean, there's an obvious name that I don't need to say out loud because I don't want to jinx myself. But our most traffic comes from the States. Our single biggest city starts with N and ends with K. It would be a wonderful thing. But just coming back to your first question, let's test the concept. Let's see if I'm right. Let's see. Maybe I'll get a lot of walk-ins really early from super committed podcast listening watch lovers, and maybe the challenge will hit when I've got to get people off the street. There's a lot of ways that our community is I don't know. Because
you're not going to get
probably
your
the
normal
hundreds of thousands in the UK, but they're fickle.
And you're not going to get footfall, are you? Like
no,
you've not got a storefront that people are going to walk past. They know anyone coming here will find it as a destination to kind of make the effort to come.
They will know where they're going.
Yeah.
But then those numbers will burn off quick. So I'm not unaware that there's all kinds of things that will have to happen along the way
to keep the momentum.
The momentum going, to keep the awareness rising. I'll need celebrity drop-ins. All these things that happen generally in my life are going to happen here. And I always scratch myself. Like I can't believe it when these people connect and we do things together, but I just can't wait to bring them here.
Yeah, you're very exciting. From your experience from the Melbourne boutique, is there any differences or surprises that you've got within the UK store?
Good question. Yes, there's two different things about Melbourne and London. In London, we have what's called the White Room, which is an exhibition space. And what we realised in Melbourne was we need a real fluid, ever-changing part of the space that we can activate, because there's so many things happening all the time. Anniversaries for brands, launches, ambassador appearances. There's so many, and there's also just a lot of new brands that want to exhibit and want to show and want to have a space where they can be represented. In Melbourne, we don't have that. In London, we have the White Room. That's number one. And that's going to be the part when you first walk through the doors, you'll see this beautiful floor-to-ceiling black battening that curves around. And then you're into this, there's these huge cradle doors, like Japanese-style dojo doors with the big black steel sort of frame and then glass. And then they're opened wide for you to see this stunning white studio that I think the first brand to take it is Zodiac. They're celebrating a big birthday. They're going to bring all their memorabilia and just pimp it out with Zodiac historical stuff.
And that'll be here for a while, will it?
For a week.
Yeah.
Well, I think they now want to extend it to 2 weeks, but there'll be a Zodiac space that you're going to walk in there. It's just you're going to understand that this brand, well, it's been saved by Fossil. It's just been such a perfect marriage of money, infrastructure, and I think they really have room, Fossil, within their sort of brand mix for a real, genuine legacy brand. So you're going to see the story of Zodiac, and that will be something you can't avoid. You come in, you're going to be like, I'm going to go check it out. And then we've got historical pieces, we've got screens, we've got lots of memorabilia. So that's the White Room. We don't have that in...
and the White Room will rotate with different brands over time?
Totally. Always changing. Week to week, that's the thing. When
you want a reason to come back
as a watch geek, I've already seen the studio. So, no,
not today.
Go in today, and you'll come in and it'll be Sylvain Berneron in there working away on something for a couple of weeks, and he'll have his beautiful Mirage on display, and we can meet Sylvain. Just like, oh my God, there's Max Busser in there. Well, there's, again, I'm setting stretch targets here.
Why not?
There's no way they'd be in our space at this point, but I dream it. If I can dream it, I can.
If you don't say it, can't come to reality.
If it can become real, and so many things in my life have come true just by speaking them into existence. So I'm saying, Sylvain, please come and spend a week with us. Max, come and say hi. But that's what you'll see in that space. And then the other big thing is that I will finally have my sort of VIP lounge, just basically a living room with a rug, a couch, 2 chairs, what do you call it? Just a lamp and a drinks trolley and a coffee machine. And that's where I'm going to live. I'm going to live in the middle of London just about every day, and when people like yourself
coming to work,
Maureen come through, this is now we have the Piaget team that are just coming through right now. They're all going to hang out with me in that space, and we're going to have that very close, comfortable, personal conversation where no one's in a rush, and we're a little bit away from the flow of footfall through it, because the lounge is a little bit, it's got these natural dividers through the clever interiors. And then the team will be working away there too. You'll see some content creation happening and all of that. So the 2 big differences are the White Room and my own. It's like my own little den, my little man cave.
Man cave, absolutely. Obviously, you've travelled the world and visited some of the best watch brands out there. Mm-hmm. If you could take over a brand and run it your way, which brand might that be?
I'll shortcut this and just say, watch the episode. There was an About Effing Time episode where we did CEO for a day.
And
I chose Breguet. I would still choose Breguet. I feel much more comforted that Gregory Kissling is going to do what I would do. He's going to focus on the details. He's going to focus on gold watches, focus on smaller watches. He's going to focus on complications. He's going to bring this great brand back. So I feel like that answer is now
still relevant.
It's relevant, but I have a lot more hope now than I did when I said it on About Effing Time. So it's still Breguet.
Good. I know asking for you to pick your favourite watch is like asking you to pick a favourite child, but what is your absolute pick from your own collection? Or is that too difficult? There's so many watches that have different reasons for buying them, I guess.
It does depend on the day that you get asked. The watch I'm missing the most at the moment, because the thing about London is you put your watches in a bank. It's so weird.
You can't enjoy them.
And I really resent that. There's many days of the week where I just like...
You're not going to go to the bank just to wear a watch, are you? And just to kind of...
There's a process. I have to put a fingerprint in. I have to take a card. Oh, look, it's hard to go past the Night Surfer, and I would probably go the Night Surfer 1, which was the Defy Classic Skeleton, micro bead blasted titanium, 100 meters water resistance, super light, super stealthy. It's slim, so it looks great with a suit. It's electric blue.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of my clothes, like today I'm wearing a navy Boggi Milano, like travel blazer. It just seems to, and I can wear it playing tennis.
Yeah.
Like Patrick Moritaglo, I think yesterday Zach published a video with Patrick, the Serena Williams coach, who wears his Night Surfer 2 when he plays tennis. So it's really the perfect watch for action, for multiple outfits, for comfort, super light. And then the blue is hard to describe. It's just, there are certain dials that are just mercurial, as in you can't pin them down. So that would be the one that I miss the most on a regular basis. London sucks for not being able to have this on my bedside table.
Yeah, you mentioned recently that your Vacheron Constant Overseas Everest is a Grail piece. Is that still out there for you, and how does it make you feel when you think of that watch in particular?
Makes me feel enormous regret because, as usual, I didn't actually order it until I held it. And I'll tell you the story, and I can give you you can look up some of this footage, but I was in the lobby of Vacheron Constantin about to do a big day of shooting, and a footballer called Kevin Akpaguma came in, and he's a very tall, very statuesque, just an absolute unit came in, and he's wearing the Everest. And he sees me, he's like, "Oh, Andrew, it's Andrew from YouTube." And he comes over and he wants to take a selfie with me. And I'm like, "Dude, you're a football player, what the hell?" So we did a selfie, and I was wearing a 222. And he said, "Can we swap?" So he was wearing the Everest. And I tried on the Everest, and I then called my Australian Vacheron Constantin rep and said, "I know I've talked to you about it, but I want in." And they were like, "Are you high? Are you insane? Like, this is so long gone." And then she said, "Look, let me see what I can do." And she came back and said, "I'm so sorry, it's done, 100% done." So it was way too late that I made a move on it. So I feel regret when I think about it, but equally, anything can be yours if you really
your pockets are deep enough.
If your pockets are deep enough and you're prepared to part with other watches. That's one. But I feel again that, like, not to compare, but the Night Surfer's titanium. It's a very it's a much slimmer watch. So and it's got a similar blue, like a blue dial. They're not miles apart. Maybe I'm kidding myself, but I don't. And the thing is, all watches can be got. I've learned that. There have been many watches I thought, "Oh, that ship has sailed." And then they come into your life one way or the other, and you realise that,
if you stick your hand up high enough and wave it around.
Well, if you get enough reach on your podcast, anything's possible.
Absolutely. Let's rewind to the success that was about effing time when you teamed up with Adrian Barker and George Bamford. At its peak, how crazy was it? And dare I ask, is there any chance of a reunion gig now that Clarkson and the gang have hung up the Grand Tour boots?
The height of craziness. I think the peak moment for us, really realising we'd created something that had changed the way the world saw us, and I won't say the world at large. The world at large had no idea who we were. But the watch world, when we did, I don't even remember what season it was. The season of Watches and Wonders, maybe 4. I don't know. That was probably it. When we did that, and we couldn't move 5 meters without a selfie, and I think at one point I'd said to Pietro, take pictures every time, take pictures of the selfies. And then at some point I was just like, no, stop. Like my phone it has too many pictures in it of this thing. So that was peak mania. That felt a little bit Beatlemania. Because the show was peaking, 4 million views a month at that point. And, Range Rover and 4 Pillars, and we had some great sponsors. Everything was, Marcus did these amazing sort of skits before each episode, you remember? Just silly stuff of before the IWC, before the Ingenieur launch one, I'm doing push-ups and George is on roller skates.
I remember,
and all the fun stuff. We really put our heart and soul into making a TV show, and that was when we got our reward.
Yeah.
At that Watches and Wonders, when we couldn't move, I've never felt anything like that. Well, the only other time I felt that was at British Watchmakers Day with Richard doing the pizza watch.
Oh, that was fun.
It was nice to be able to do that and realise it wasn't just about a big time, that there were other ways to get people that excited. But I think it's a good question because the feeling from that, I get it. I get why people can't retire when they're in a band. It's hard to let that go. So, as for what could happen with us in the future, something will happen. I'm just not going to tell you what.
Yeah, that's cool.
Something will happen.
Yeah.
I just it's brewing, but something will happen. It's not completely over.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear. What's next for Time and Tide apart from obviously world domination? Where do you see it going in the next 2 to 3 years?
Look, I think we stand on the brink of a real perception shift for Time and Tide. At the moment, we might be in a word cluster with Fratello and Monochrome and Revolution and a Blog to Watch and Hodinkee and Worn and Wound and so on.
And Watch Brothers.
And Watch Brothers, exactly. You got to see it. Then if you can see it, you can make it happen. But yeah, look, we're in that sort of a word cloud, and there doesn't exist a word cloud for where we're heading, which is
kind of ideal.
Big clubhouses that are going to have exclusively stocking the greatest contender brands in the world. Yeah. So, what's next for us is that I think that. I can sit here and talk all I want. Action changes perception.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've done a lot of actions to get to the point where we're sitting in this bomb site. And I'm very excited for people to re-get to know us and to know that.
There's a whole new audience, I guess, as well.
Yes.
Certainly over here.
We're going to have people who may not even consume watch media come through here. But I can't wait for people to meet what I wanted.
The lady across the road in the office opposite, she stopped and she said, "Who are Time and Tide?"
I know.
And straight away she said, "Oh, my husband, so and so loves watches. I'll have to let them know." So you don't know who's across the road.
There's a huge audience that will dawn in London, and I think we would be less than 1% of the way there in terms of getting people across us. But I can't wait for everyone who follows Time and Tide Media to re-get to know us in person, because it won't be what you expect. It'll be different, and I think that it's
different's good.
Different. Well, different. It'll be more than different.
Makes you stand out.
It's richer,
as well.
and it's much more. It's like you and the B1 Toledano. Like, you've seen the pictures of us. Now come and try us on.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a fellow watch journalist and someone, I'm only a few years into the industry. What advice would you give to anybody else who's kind of looking to dip their toe into the world of watches?
Just have a value proposition. Just don't do it if you can't differentiate what you do. If you're like a UK Hodinkee, don't do it. Don't bother. Yeah. There's still Hodinkee. If you're if you're a Brazilian Justin Hast, all that actually would be viable, because there should be a Justin Hast in every country. But no, I feel that you just need to have something different you want to say, and something different that you want to make real. You need to have a burning desire to create something that doesn't exist, because it's that thing. If Time and Tide didn't exist, I needed to invent it. Yeah. And I felt alienated when I was getting into watches. I felt poor. I felt culturally on the fringe. Yeah. Because like so much of the conversation was held by Singapore, by New York, by the Netherlands. There was a lot of voices, but there were none that sounded like mine. So it's really important that you only do this if you have a burning desire to be something that doesn't exist.
Well, you're doing that. You're kind of proof that the concept works.
I'm proof that you need to hold that like a little eternal flame, like a little Elvis Presley flame, and just stop the wind from blowing it out. Because if you believe that what you have to say and what you have to bring and what the perspective that you have is something that the world wants, if you believe that and the world tells you, hey, I really like Real Watch, I like the Real Watch Brothers channel, Is that what it's called? Or Watch Brothers?
Well, Real Watch Brothers is our Instagram, and Watch Brothers is the website.
That's it. I had both.
Yeah, there you go.
But if you believe that you're doing something different that resonates with people, put it into a simple line and say it over and over and over every time. You should, hey, welcome back to the Real Watch Brothers, where blah 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 blah.
Of course.
Everyone that joins Watch Media has to have a line that they would say at the top of the thing. And ours early on was the Australian Watch Authority. We realised we had to take Australia in a sort of a Churchillian sense.
Absolutely.
We had to win a territory, and then that turned into the home of watch culture because we felt like no one was really focusing on culture. Looking at life through the lens of a watch, we had all these little one-liners that at that point summed up who we were. Yeah. So you've got to have one of those.
We have one. Ours is 2 perspectives, 1 passion.
Nice.
Because obviously I'll run this with my twin brother Mark, and Mark does all the photography, I do all the kind of writing side of it. So, you know, we do it for fun.
You're bringing 2 different perspectives.
You know, we've both got different views on things. I like stuff, he doesn't like stuff, but you know, for us, we're just doing it for the fun, and we're both really enjoying this journey. How long it lasts for, who knows? But for the moment,
you've managed to get my 2 biggest moments on tape.
Your
last episode of About a Big Time and the first episode of the
absolutely,
studio.
And the first press man in your studio.
Exactly. That's crazy.
Listen,
You're always around, Neil. I don't know how.
Well, you know, like a bad rash. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you today, and thank you so much for giving us a glimpse into your world. Here's to a bright future for you and to Time and Tide, and best of luck with the new launch. I'm very excited to see where Time and Tide will go in the next few years. Really
Neil,
excited.
thank you very much. And well, you're on for the ride. You saw the before. You've taken some pictures, so hopefully we can contrast that with a stunning final.
Well, hopefully we'll be around soon around the launch and get involved as much as we can and spread the Time and Tide world.
Indeed. No,
thank you so much indeed. Appreciate that. Thank you for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, subscribe and drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you. It's been a lot of fun sharing our love for watches with you today. And if you're craving for more Watch Brothers content, head over to our website at www.watchbrothers.co.uk for articles, reviews and all things watches. Plus, if you like watch photography, check out our reels and tutorials on our Instagram channel at Real Watch Brothers. Catch you next time, and please keep ticking along.